I want to play these clips here. I got 3 clips of Jordan Peterson from his lectures in college back in 2017. Here's clip 1.
And one of the things we've discovered that's really interesting is that disgust sensitivity is associated with orderliness, and that's associated with conscientiousness. And one of the things about Hitler was that he was very disgust sensitive, and a lot of his hatred for non-Aryans. So imagine inside the Aryan box it was all uniform, outside it was all parasites and predators. And that was a manifestation of disgust, not of fear. It's a whole different thing. And if you read Hitler's Table Talk, which is a collection of his spontaneous dinner speeches from 1939 to 1942, it's a very interesting book. You see that his metaphor for the Aryan race was a body, a pure body, unassaulted by parasites or predators, and that he was trying to erect a border around it to keep all of that away. So it's an immunological disgust-like metaphor. And there's some recent work that was published in PLOS One about 3 years ago showing that, a brilliant study, should have got much more attention, showing that if you went around and sampled political attitudes in different countries, or even within the same country, what you found was that the higher the prevalence of infectious diseases, the higher the probability of totalitarian political attitudes at the local level. And you can imagine, well, what happens if there's infectious diseases is you want to put borders around everything. You don't want free movement between ideas or people, because that's partly how the disease spreads.
That's so good. That study there, I gotta do more research on that study, but the idea is that countries with more infectious disease have more totalitarian policies because we need to control the diseased people. So we need to physically put them in a box, right? We gotta wall them off, but we also have to socially wall them off. We need to wall off even their ideas, because their ideas are dripping with the disease that they physically have. This is like the Fauci of Nova Scotia. We played this clip 100 times. The Fauci of Nova Scotia was asked why they're still banning gatherings. And he said, well, because the disease is still spreading, and also gatherings are where they spread misinformation. As if the things they're saying are diseased as well. They are filthy, and so are their ideas, which leads to more totalitarianism and more taking away of your freedom. Be on the lookout for the word dirty, the disgust sensitivity. It's going to be used moving forward here. It's just part of the process. More Jordan Peterson here.
And before Hitler went on his rampage against the non-Aryans, he cleaned up all the factories. Like, he went in there and fumigated them. It was part of the law. And he went on a public health campaign to get rid of tuberculosis, and he got rid of the bugs in the factories as well. And he used Zyklon B. That's an insecticide, and that's the gas that he used in the gas chambers eventually. So first it was the bugs in the rats, and then it was people who were, then it was euthanasia. That was the next move, and forced euthanasia. And the rationale for that was compassion, by the way, just so you all know. It's merciful to put these people who are burdensome to themselves and their families and the state, who are living second-rate lives. It's merciful to euthanize them. And that was a huge campaign in Germany. It was after that that the more racial purifications began. And so that's the disgust thing. That's unbelievably important.
And that's where we are right now. That's what's next, is the disgust aspect of it. But I love that it's all done for your own good. Be on the lookout for that too. It's done for, well, listen, we're going to wall those people off for our own good, obviously, right? We're gonna wall off the dirty underclass for our own good. But also, we're gonna do that out of compassion for them. It's for their own good that we need to not treat the unvaccinated people who get COVID. It's for their own good, because they need to be taught a lesson. They need to be taught a lesson about how important this is. So it's for their own good that we're taking away their rights and their liberties and their freedoms. Be careful for that spin too. Last point from Peterson here, because you wonder, and I know, I always know there's some eye rolling, and it's fine. Because you say, Slater, this will never happen here. Things like this will never happen here. We're way too civilized. We're way more advanced than people were back in the day. What if the fact that we are civilized is what will lead us down that path? Last clip.
It's really terrifying, because one of the things people often said about Germany was that, you know, it was a very civilized country and yet it descended into barbarity. But conscientiousness is a very good predictor of long-term success. And so you could say, well, conscientious societies are more civilized, but they're also more orderly, and that makes them more disgust sensitive. And so what it might have easily been in Germany was that it was an excess of civilization rather than its lack that produced exactly these consequences. And that's a far more frightening proposition, and one that's, I believe, much more likely to be true. Hitler bathed 4 times a day.
I just want to put that last part in there too. That is, that's terrifying and totally flips it on. Like, I always would rely back on, well, it won't happen here because we know better, or we're more civilized than that. No, it's because we're so civilized. It increases the likelihood that that will happen. Because if you're a conscientious people, conscientious means you do what you're supposed to do thoroughly and well and completely, right? Like you do your work, right? So we're civilized people, we're conscientious people, which means we're more orderly. Orderly means we're more disgust sensitive, which means we need to eradicate the dirty. And that's where we are now. These unvaccinated people, they can't be trusted. They're to blame for the virus mutating. Actually, the fact that they're not vaccinated, the virus is spreading and mutating, and then that's putting us more at risk. So really, those people, they're attacking us. So now everything we do to separate them, it's justified and also compassionate. Once that rhetoric hits this point, which we're very close to, what day is it? Wednesday? So probably by Friday. Once we get to the unclean, and there's no going back.
Wow, that was deep and insightful. I want more of that. Like, subscribe, get more.